Great meditations, and I'm more of a kind of just zone out meditator than her. Hers are so good. I was like her to do the opening. It's so powerful. So thank you, sweetheart, for doing that. Thank you all for coming out. So I'll tell you, I started my evening with tremendous excitement. We are from New York. Can you tell? All of you Californians, right? You can tell right away. So I started my evening with tremendous excitement because somebody told me, and we did an event here in November, and on the corner it said, "Coming soon, Dunkin' Donuts." Now, if you are an East Coaster, you know that the world revolves around Dunkin' Donuts on the East Coast. So I was very excited, so we have to come early, so I want to make sure I go there. And of course I got here and it's still under construction, so I'm excited, but I'm in acceptance. That Dunkin' Donuts is not open yet, so I need to be in acceptance of that, but I am excited that it is coming soon. So it's out there under construction, so it's one of those things. But you know, it's a great story that Marie just told you, because you know, we go through these processes of acceptance and resistance. This is a big principle of this work. We will talk about this tonight. And resistance slows you down. Acceptance speeds you up. So we want to be in a state of acceptance. You may not like everything, but that is a critical part of the work and what it is that we're here to do. I started doing this work a long time ago in different levels and phases. The last about 11 or 12 years in a very intensive work like what we're going to talk about tonight, this karmic work and this energy clearing work and this chakra clearing work. And for me, it was a million miles away from what I would ever be doing. I grew up, like I said, I'm from New York, I'm from Brooklyn. You know, we grew up Catholic, which I always joke is a whole other talk. But, you know, certain ideas and rules and regulations of being Christians and Catholics, or whatever the case may be. And then as we started to do this work, my dad, unfortunately, was a detective in New York in narcotics. He died when I was 12 on the job, in a violent incident, which was very emotional. Went through a lot of struggles, went to work right after high school, ended up going through a couple of bankruptcies early in my career working. And that's what actually led me to the work, because I was struggling and working really hard and putting in a lot of energy and effort, and it wasn't working. So I said, well, I don't understand what's wrong. I'm working hard, I'm setting goals, I'm putting in a lot of hours. Even though I didn't go to school, I was very big on reading all these books, you know, about success and thinking grow rich and goal setting, and I'm writing stuff down, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm getting excited, and I'm doing affirmations. Anybody doing all that? It didn't work. It was exciting, but it didn't work. It was very exciting, but it just didn't work. So I said, well, I don't understand. I'm doing all, not that it was bad, but it just wasn't working. So finally, I actually started off by going to therapy for a couple of years, which really helped. And then I started to evolve into this metaphysical work and energy work, and met different people and different teachers and different principles as I went along, and then started teaching people, not because that's what I thought I was going to do, but people just started asking me what was different. And I said, I'm doing this work, and I just started sharing it with people, and it evolved from there. So that's kind of how I got into this, and what I want to share with you tonight is this process of what karma is and what's really happening in your life, and how this is working, and how you can identify your blocks and issues, and then clear them. Because that's what we want to do. We want to identify it and clear it. And in life, just so you know, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there's always another issue. So that's the problem for people, because we, as humans, we're very linear. How do we think? Well, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to go for so many years, I'll go do this, I'll get a diploma, and I'm done. Is that how we think? In life, you're never done. Because there's always something else. There's always something else. So when people come into this work, you know, we started, of course, doing this in New York. We're out here about 3 years. You know, people say, well, how long does this take? How long do I have to do it for? I said, well, how long do you want to be alive? You know, as long as you're going to be living, you're going to be doing it. So the idea is, it's kind of like, my analogy to it is physical exercise. If I want to be in good physical shape, I don't get in good shape and stop. Correct? So it's the same thing. So this becomes your spiritual practice. This becomes your energy practice, your metaphysical practice, whatever you want to call it. Just the same way you would do certain things to be healthy, you will do the same things to be energetically healthy, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. So the very important part of the work is to be consistent. And it happens to people all the time. You know, we meditate every day. We're big meditators, and it's something that's been unbelievably powerful for us. And I'll work with people, and I'll say, I was doing great, and I was meditating, and my life was going well, and then I stopped. And all of a sudden, you know, 3-4 months later, everything crashed and burned, and I stopped doing all my stuff, and I stopped doing everything. So this is what you don't want to do. You want to be consistent with the work that you're doing, and whatever work that you've all done in your lives, and you've all done different things. So I'm going to be interactive with you as well. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things. I'm going to get into it. And here's my objective whenever I do a session, is I want to make sure you leave here with things that you can apply practically right away. So literally, before you even leave this room, you're going to have stuff that you can use in your life right now. So I'm not an airy-fairy guy. Brooklyn, we don't do that. We don't do airy-fairy over there. So, and that was one of my issues when I first started learning this. I have to tell you, I would go see these people or go to these trainings, and everybody, you know, it was very interesting, but I was like, okay, you got to give me some meat, man. What do I do? Well, go out and love everyone. I said, I can't do that. How am I going to love everyone? Someone's going to take my parking spot in 5 minutes when I walk in here. I'm going to be pissed. How am I going to love that person? So, you know what I'm saying? So, because it's not realistic. And then I finally met this one teacher who was very grounded into, okay, the reality, which was, you know what? You're not going to like everybody. That's the way it is. You're going to be angry, you're going to have feelings, you're going to go through all these different things. This is the way the world is. This is how life is. So you have to learn how to deal with yourself, but the key is to manage your emotional state. That's what we want to learn to do. We want to manage our emotional state. That is where people get in trouble, is when the trouble begins or when the problems come up, is when you are not managing your state. That's where people get into problems. So we want to understand what's happening in our lives, why it's happening. We're going to talk about something called the karmic wheel, which is basically your cycles or patterns of behavior. Anybody have those? So you have one. So basically, here's what's happening in your life. Your life is based on a series of cycles. That's all it is. You have cycles of behavior in all areas of your life, based on your karma, based on your energy, based on what you came here to do. And most people, because you need awareness in order to break the cycle. So most people, would you say they are aware?
No.
No, right? They're not aware. They don't know what's going on. So they're just cycling around. It's not their fault. They just don't have the awareness to understand what's going on. So as a result of that, they just keep going through the same cycle over and over again. Now what happens is, people who are more aware will say, wait a minute, you know, I want to stop this. I need to stop this. I realize that I have dated my mother 12 times. Right? I realize that I've had my father for my boss 4 times. You start to realize, wait a minute, this is very familiar. Why this experience is so familiar to me. So now you start realizing, you say, okay, something's wrong with this picture, and then you start to look into all these different things, which is what I did. Now a lot of people, they don't do that. They're just so caught up in all the drama, which they like. A lot of people like drama. You know people like that? I'm sure none of you, but there are people out there that like it. They like to be dramatic. They like to be upset. So it's funny because now when we see our families, they're professionals at being upset. If there was a league, like a pro league, for being upset, we would be in first place. There would be no competition. No one could keep up. So if it was like the all let's be upset league, we would have 1 and 2 battling out for first place, either my wife's family or my own, to see who could be more upset under any condition. Okay. Because the bottom line is this: is it easy to be upset? It's easy to be. It's so easy. So I said to myself, well, it's so easy to be upset. Isn't it more challenging not to be upset? Because everybody wants to be upset. A lot of people just really like to be upset. Now, of course, the question begs to be answered. In your brain, does that make any sense?
No.
Because your brain says, I don't want to be upset. But in your energy, you learned how to be upset. So now you just want to keep being upset. But you're not consciously waking up in the morning saying, yeah, today I hope I get really upset. Did anybody do that this morning? Well, I hope today really something's happened and I get really pissed. Is that what's going to happen? You didn't do that, right? But in your energy field, you're stuck in a cycle of being upset because that's what you learned how to do. So you learned it at home, you picked up the energy, it's part of your karma, and now you just keep doing it. Even when things are going well, you find a way to be upset. You know people like that? Why everything's going well? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you pick a fight with that person? Why did you create that problem? Well, I needed to be upset, don't you understand? Now nobody knows that, because here's what happens. So now something happens that's upsetting, what that person wants to do to hold themselves in space. So understand something, we don't want to hold ourselves in space. We want to get out. But in order to hold myself in space, I need to be a victim. So if something upsetting happens to me, what I'm going to say is, look what you did. Look what Scott did to me. Then I'm going to call Susan because I want to be validated. Susan, can I tell you what Scott did to me? He came late, he did this, he screwed me over. She says, you know what, you're right, he's an idiot. Now I feel good, right? I feel good about that because now you validated my feeling, but it allowed me to be a victim and stay weak. So now I can just stay in my cycle. So we don't want to do this anymore. We're going to break the cycle, but I have to know then what the cycle is. And I have to know where it's coming from. So let's first talk about what is, let me give you a definition of karma that I like to use based on the work. Basically, so when I'm writing this book, so I'm out there writing this book, and this is came out at the end of 2011. I actually was interesting because I wrote half the book in New York, and I wrote half the book here. So the nice part was here. The upsetting part that I'm on. The second half is much kinder than I'm on. So, because I was in a different space. But anyway, I would ask everybody for their definition. What's your definition of karma? What's your definition of karma? What's your definition of karma? And everybody would say the same, pretty much similar. Well, you know, you reap what you sow. So is that what you learn? Is that what you believe? And that's kind of in a Buddhist philosophy. Well, you know, whatever you do comes back to you. That's partially true, but we're missing pieces. So what I was looking for was a definition that was deeper, because that's partially true. But there's other parts of it that we want to understand. So basically, for me, as I did the work, I understood that my karma is the emotional blueprint for the work that I came to do, for my unique experience. So here's the way it works. Before you came from the other side, you decided what experience you want to have. You wanted to have here. So one of the things was, as the fights that we would have, mostly in fights, it was disagreements about the parent thing, because I would come up and say, I don't care what you say, don't even bring this up to me ever again, this is the stupidest thing I've heard in my life. Those people, I can't believe it, you would tell me I want them. I said, it's not about that, it's about understanding that I selected my parents because they had the right DNA code for my emotional journey. Now they had two different things, okay? I want you to understand two different things that are going on. They had the right DNA code for your emotional journey, but they also possessed the skills that you needed for what you're here to do. So you might say, wow, my father was an alcoholic, but he was a painter. He was a great painter. I wanted to be a painter, but I picked up the alcoholism too, because that's part of my journey, right? Wow, my mother was a fantastic accountant and business person, but she was abusive to me. She was an abusive personality, so I picked up the, so now what happens is you pick up the skills. So what you want to do is look at your parents. I go through the section in the book with this, where you want to say, okay, first of all, a lot of people go through life trying not to be like their parents. Would you say that's true? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is that possible? No. No, because that's who you are. That's your DNA. That you are them. Now, the question becomes, can I be a better version of them? The answer is yes. I don't have to be, but I have to accept, again, we're back to acceptance and resistance, that I have certain traits that they have. So my father had extreme depression. Extreme. You know what I had? Extreme depression. I've been working on this for years. I didn't know where it came from, but he had it, he passed it on to me. Right? So that was something that I got from him. I got good hair, which he also had, but I got the depression too. So you got different. So you look at your parents and say, well, this is what I got that's good. I got good hair, I got good health, I got whatever. Maybe I got a, whatever skill set. I'm handy, or I'm mechanical, or whatever. So I got all that stuff, but now I got some emotional stuff that I don't like so much. Well, I got depression, I got anger. I got all these other things that I got this tremendous judgment that I got from my mother. Oh, she was so judgmental, and she passed it on to me. So I got all this different stuff. I picked up this whole big bag of stuff. So now you came here with an emotional journey based on the feelings that you want to feel. So you want to feel certain feelings. So here's the bottom line. Everybody's the same energy. So therefore, we're all having the same experience, just different types of manifestations and different levels of extremeness, if there's, for lack of a better word, in the different areas. So let's say, for example, you came to feel abandonment. Now, has everybody here felt abandonment? Of course you did, but somebody feels a lot of abandonment, because that's the core feeling that they came to feel. Everybody has felt unworthiness, correct? Some people feel tremendous unworthiness, right? So everybody has all the feelings, but some people have very deep core issues connected to certain feelings. So you may say, well, I always feel this feeling of being abandoned all the time. I always feel this feeling of not being supported, which makes me feel unworthy, which makes me feel unimportant. So we want to be aware of this to say, okay, I'm here to feel both sides. I'm here to do the positive work and do my work based on what I came to do, but I'm also here to feel all these negative feelings. But what did you learn to do when a feeling came up? So I want you to bring yourself back. You're a little kid. You went to your mother or father and you said, I feel X. What happened?
Don't feel that way.
What did they say?
Don't feel that way.
Don't feel that way? You both actually said exactly the same thing. Okay, so now, imagine this, I'm 5 years old, 6 years old, whatever. I go to my mother. Mom, I'm upset, something happened at school. Don't feel that way. What did I just learn?
Your feelings are wrong.
What's that?
Your feelings were wrong.
My feelings are wrong, and also to mask, to not feel it. Right, so I learned, number one, it's wrong. First of all, my feeling is wrong. That's one. But I also learned to say, well, don't even go down, don't bring that up. Because what happens when you're a little kid, once you do it a couple of times and you get slammed, what happens? No, shut it down.
Right.
So now, as a child, because understand, human beings are designed for one purpose. We're here to survive. We survive anything. Right? We're saying, okay, I'm in a hostile environment, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, we figure it out and we say, how do I survive this environment? So if I know I can't say anything about my feelings to my parents, what will I start doing? Shutting up and hiding out and being I'm going to hold all that energy. Now here's the problem. That energy must go somewhere. You have to understand, you can't just push it down. You can, but it has to go somewhere. So you push this energy all down, now you're holding it, and you're thinking to yourself, what? I did it, I'm good, I got it. I'm stuffing it all down, because that's what I learned how to do from 2 years old. You learned how to do that early, because here's the deal. One of the things we do in our energy clearing process, which we're doing in February, is we take you back to the crib. It started in the crib. That's when it started. Didn't start when you were 26. Started when you were 6 days old. Started when you were 1 hour old. So now, all these years, you've been conditioned to operate in a certain way based on your emotions, and now what ends up happening is, you don't just all of a sudden say, oh, now I'm 30 years old, I can do whatever I want. Because you're a professional stuffer. Right? You just stuff it down. So now I've learned to stuff my feelings down, I don't deal with my emotion, that is what's holding you in negative space. Because you're not dealing with how you feel, because in effect, as a child, you were not given permission to feel your feelings. Does that make sense? So as I said, here's the deal. Your energy is always moving. I want you to be aware of that. There is no such thing as a neutral position. So here's the deal. Every second of every day, because your energy is moving, you are either moving closer to what you want or further away. Every second. All day it's happening. You have to say, how do I feel? See, so what I always say to people is, you have to keep asking yourself, how do I feel? Did anybody ever learn to do that? Did any of your parents say, you know what? How are you feeling? No? No one said, how are you feeling?
How does it feel the backhand?
Right, so you have to understand. So now, here's the problem. Now I'm afraid to even put this out there, because it was so negative to even put it out there. I'm afraid to put it out there. I'm afraid to get into these emotions, because I don't even know how to do it. I'm so used to just stuffing it down. So now I stuff it down, so what happens? A couple of different things. When you stuff energy, when you don't deal with your emotion, now you're sending out energy, which is how the law of attraction works. It's based on vibration that's going out. So now I'm sending this energy out, but because I don't even know what's happening, I don't really know what I'm sending out. And I just keep creating stuff. So a couple of different things are going to happen. Either you're going to start creating things in the outside world that's negative, or you will make yourself physically sick, or you will do both. Because now I'm sending out energy, I have all this energy swirling around in here that's all pushed down for all these years. I never dealt with it. So because I never dealt with it, it's flying all around out there. And it's flying all around out there, and it's got to be dealt with. So what we want to do is say, I don't want to just keep, things are just happening. I have to stop these things from happening. Why are these things happening to me? Does anybody say that? Now, here's a couple of things that you have to be very careful of. Your words, what you say is very important, and how you frame everything is very important. So when you say, why is this happening to me, what mode are you in? Victim. I'm a victim because I just said what? Why is this happening to me? So now we want to go from victim to master. Would you rather be victim or a master? I would hope you want to be a master. Now a lot of people don't want to be a master because you have to be responsible then, which nobody wants to be. It's easy not to be responsible. But if I'm a master, what am I saying? I have power. So here's a little thing to think about. How will you feel being powerful? How will you feel being powerful? This is a very big question to ask yourself, because you probably grew up not feeling powerful. Now all of a sudden you're going to start feeling powerful. So now in a new energy, in a higher vibration, your question to yourself would be, why did I create this? Not why did this happen to me? See the difference?